Greetings, friends, and we have a special program as we flow into this Friday into the weekend. You know, the weekend's a time for some rest, reflection, relaxation, perhaps some worship, and thinking about what is truly important. Recently, my friend Steve Lear returned from Israel, and he was telling me his story, and I simply said, Steve, let's talk about that. This is more than an interesting idea. It is certainly a challenging idea and something that we need to think about. And so he agreed to join me on this special Interesting Ideas program just for you. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Stan Husted, for making this opportunity available. Last week, I had a chance to be in Israel for an entire week. It was filled with all sorts of different emotions. It was meaningful and purposeful. People turn to me and they say, well, how was your trip? I said, was it a good trip? I don't know if I can define it as a good trip. This was the 11th time that I'd been there, might have been the 12th, I'm losing track. And it was just so different. So what did we do on this trip? We hugged children. We provided dinner for soldiers. We picked oranges. We picked tomatoes. And the weirdest thing that we did was we went into an army base where we prepared the Israeli army for the next war. It was incredibly sobering. There I was, rolling up sleeping bags that were dated 1985 so that they could put it in their back, in their packs so that they could go into battle. One of the things that I learned from that experience is war sucks. First of all, people get hurt. And then on top of it, it's an unbelievable waste of resources. It takes people's time. It takes people's energy. There's no real happy ending to anything. So I don't have an answer, but it sure would be great if the world could come up with an alternative conflict resolution system. So that's what part of the volunteering was. Another part of it was listening to Israelis talk about their experiences. We were down at Sderot overlooking Gaza, and as we're overlooking it, all of a sudden there was an hours filled of missiles and bombs going from Israel into Gaza. And that was a little weird. That was, Stan, you ever been in a situation where you're hearing gunfire?
Only deer hunting in Minnesota, and that's not very scary.
That's not scary. All right, so we're listening to these booms. We're listening to a IDF 30-year veteran, and he informs us that Israel has lost the war. And I was taken back in that this is the first time since 73 that Israel had its pants down to its knees. And they were just totally caught off guard. And they totally misinterpreted the skills of Hamas when it comes to warfare and being what I will consider incredibly evil, they will consider fighting for their state. And it, the interpretation of the situation is by the beholder, the person who's viewing it. And I'm biased. I have come to a conclusion that I feel like I'm back in the 30s. And I thought for certain that we had moved away from that sense. I just feel that there's a movement within a fanatical arm of the world not the whole world. And that's what gives me some hope, is that it's simply the fanatical arm of the world that is basically calling for the destruction of the Jewish people. It's just at this point in history where, I'm sorry, there is absolutely nothing the Jews can do right to basically have a space on this planet where they can call themselves home. And, you know, I look at the whole Zionist concept as a concept where Jews just want a place where they can beat themselves up rather than have somebody else beat them up. And it's just, it's unreal to me that we're in this situation now where I simply thought that the world would be able to differentiate between true evil and a movement trying to make the world a better place. So that was the other thing that I took, the other emotion that I took away. The next emotion was, oh man, I came back to the United States and you see the media and you see Israel just being raked through the coals on its overzealousness and its act of revenge. And I'm going, is that really my people? Now, it's some of our people, but I don't think, and the conversations I had with the soldiers, that's not what they were there for. I had a chance to serve dinner to the Phoenix unit. And I don't know if did you see the Phoenix unit? Did you hear about this, Stan?
No, I haven't. Please tell me the story. I missed that.
Okay. The Phoenix unit is a bunch of guys who served in the IDF about 15, 20 years ago. And when the war came out, they came together. So they're all in their 40s and 50s and reunited, convinced the Israeli government to allow them. They were tank guys. And they allowed them to go around the country, find unused tanks. They repaired the tanks and they went into battle in Gaza. I mean, these were guys, I'm sitting next to this guy. He's got he had 4 daughters. And there's 4 people to a tank. And he's spending his time fighting for the sake of the state of Israel. And he was kind, he was nice. I mean, he just said, we are not going away. So, that again, in these situations, I try and always find some hope. And the hope that I came away from this trip is that I'm part of a family. I'm part of an incredibly diversified family. It's people spread out all over the world that come together at a time of absolute misery and terror, come together, and the story isn't done. And I'm crossing my fingers that the world will be patient to see what happens. Anything else you want to ask, Dan?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much on this few hours before Shabbat. Steve, do you have anything that you'd like to say in terms of a wish or a prayer, and then perhaps maybe how people can contact you?
A wish and a prayer. We are not going to live without conflict. That's a given. And conflict is definitely not bad. I've created many great relationships. Stan, you're one of them, that you and I have had conflict, but we keep moving forward. And so I don't look at conflict as an evil, something you should run from. What I do wish for is that leadership, and it is leadership's role, to try and find alternative ways to resolve issues. The other thing that I wish for is that, and I'll be blunt, the Palestinian society and the part of the Palestinian society that scares me the most is the fanatical arm. The fanatical arm. Please get over it. You know, we Jews are good people. There's some bad, but we're good people with good values. And stop trying to get rid of us. Instead, why don't you try and find a way to live with us and just say yes. The biggest example is this whole issue in Gaza. If they would simply return the 130 people at this stage, the likelihood of the war continuing is not high. That's my opinion. I'm not a government official. But it's 130 people. So my last wish is be more critical about what you see. Ask the whys. You know, why is this happening? And please, just don't blame the Jews for the problems in the world. It's unfair. How I can be reached? Steve@stevelear.org is one way to reach me. And do I provide my telephone number or just my email?
You're welcome to do either.
612-636-8223. But Steve@stevelear.org is probably the best way. Thank you, Stan. I appreciate you giving me these few minutes. I feel better. I have greater clarity. And for the people listening, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for listening. This is more than an interesting idea. This is a change-making idea. And please remember, shalom is not just a greeting. It's a desire for something much bigger and greater and God's will. Amen. Bye for now.
Amen. Thanks, Stan.